the aircraft actually got off the airstrip, but not having traveled over beyond the airstrip, because shortly after it took off, it took a left bank and ditched into a swampy area just about 200 feet off the runway.
While investigators sort through the wreckage of Saturday night's devastating plane crash in the Bahamas, friends and family members of a production crew and their pilot have to go on knowing if they hadn't changed their flight plans, they would still be alive.
We dropped them off in Treasure Key, and then we were scheduled to pick them back up on Saturday.
With that same aircraft?
Yes, ma'am. And on Saturday, we got a call and said that they weren't complete with the shoot at this time, and that they actually wanted to be picked up on Sundays.
But 9 of the roughly 40 people Sky Limo dropped off decided to return a day early and chartered a flight with a different company, a significantly smaller plane that Bahamian investigators say may have been overloaded.
One of those things of fate that, if she'd been on this plane that next day, maybe this all wouldn't have happened. We all wouldn't be here, but no telling why. And we'll all have to wait, I'm sure, for the reasons as to what happened with the other airplane.
When the twin-engine Cessna crashed, witnesses said it rolled hard to the left after taking off and fell almost straight down. There have been unconfirmed reports that the pilot, Luis Morales of Fort Lauderdale, may have questioned the amount of cargo and passengers to be loaded, and that's one of the first areas investigators will look into.
One thing we may discover that we can determine the weight of the luggage, which may help the investigators in determining whether the plane had an overload.
The crew that perished in the crash traveling with Aaliyah was scheduled to come back to South Florida on Sunday with the charter company Sky Limo in this 15-passenger plane, which can carry up to 4,500 pounds of fuel, passengers, and luggage. But for some reason, Aaliyah and her entourage chose to leave on Saturday afternoon in the smaller Cessna.
We feel very terrible about what happened. It was obviously a terrible tragedy. One of those things of fate that, if she'd been on this plane that next day, maybe this all wouldn't have happened. We all wouldn't be here.
In New York City, a mural was made Monday in remembrance of the young R&B star who many said had an unlimited future. But 2 of those on board were from South Florida. Bodyguard Scott Gallen lived in Pompano Beach, and pilot Luis Morales lived in Fort Lauderdale, not far from his parents. Morales' father says his son visited him just a few weeks ago and constantly spoke of the joy of being a pilot. The crash investigation will take time, and officials will reconstruct what's left of the wreckage and take into account the cargo and witness statements that say the plane may have lost one of its engines on takeoff from Marshall.
Because Aaliyah, a good friend of ours in the music business, some of us closer to her, if she was here today, she would have got her party on. And I know wherever she is, she's at.
I thank God, and I know that we are all thinking about our friend Aaliyah. So all of this happiness that I'm getting tonight is
Aaliyah was definitely a special part of my life. We will all miss her.
The one thing about Aaliyah that really stood out to me was that she's really genuine and she was nice and not really jaded by being a star.
We were devastated. We loved Aaliyah. She loved us. She talks about us in all of her interviews.
How do you feel? She's 22, talented, beautiful. How do you feel? You're numb, and it hurts, and it's sad, and we'll miss her.
You love me. You like me.
When we found out about Aaliyah's death, we were in dance rehearsal, and we all just, took the time just to pray for traveling mercies and just ask him to, let us enjoy every day of our lives and be grateful and thankful.
God bless God, thank you. You deserve it, too.
Don't you making Destiny's Child who we are today? Oh, yeah.
She was our age, and it's just scary because that could have been any one of us. And she was an angel, and I know that now she's with God.
Come home to me, darling. Don't you know that?
Riverside Memorial Funeral Home for bodyguard Scott Gallant. As much in memory of Gallant,
You know, he died a hero, and we all knew he was a hero from day one.
as for his teenage son, Lyle.
His biggest thing in life was his son, Lyle. Lyle was his life.
Gallant was one of 9 people on board the twin-engine Cessna that crashed last Saturday. He was providing security to 22-year-old R&B star Aaliyah D, who was taping a music video in the Bahamas.
Early morning. What is it now, 6? We've been up since 3, doing hair and makeup to get the beautiful sunrise shot.
A private funeral service will be held here in New York City for the singer and actress. A public memorial for her fans is also being planned. The plane crashed shortly after takeoff from Marsh Harbor, and attention has been focusing on the pilot, 30-year-old Luis Morales of Fort Lauderdale, who had pled no contest to charges of cocaine possession earlier this month and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. Morales also was not authorized to fly the plane that crashed, a crash investigators think might have been caused by excess baggage, overloaded by hundreds of pounds of equipment and luggage.
I know that we are all thinking about our friend Aaliyah. So all of this happiness that I'm getting tonight is sort of mixed.
What was the latest radio transmission?
I don't know. We haven't reached that stage of the investigation as yet.
I mean, was there any trouble reported, or?
I can tell you from what I've seen is what appeared to have happened very quickly. The aircraft never got, the aircraft actually got off the airstrip, but not having traveled over beyond the airstrip, because shortly after it took off, it took a left bank and ditched into a swampy area just about 200 feet off the runway.
The twin-engine Cessna was headed for Florida when it crashed Saturday on Abaco Island, 100 miles north of Nassau. From witness statements, an engine may have failed and that the plane may have been overloaded.
One thing we may discover that we can determine the weight of the luggage, which may help the investigators in determining whether the plane had an overload.
And this is such a shock, especially, you know, her album was just out, she's filming her video, she has movies in the works. No one expected this. In her career, you know, everyone expected it to be so huge. I mean, you think of Janet Jackson, Mariah Carey, Jennifer Lopez, these are the types of people that, you know, she was going to be one day. And for her just to be gone overnight is really scary and sad. And to be so young, I think it really just affects people in a very powerful way.
Also on board, Aaliyah's bodyguard, Scott Gallant of Pompano Beach, a former NFL player and father of a 14-year-old boy.
The bodyguard for stars. So I guess that's why he was on that plane.
7 years ago, Aaliyah emerged with her debut album. Age ain't nothing but a number, and she proved that, despite being only 14, she had a pretty good start.
I'm a happy girl, you know, I'm doing what I love. There's no feeling like waking up every day doing what you love and what you
In an interview just last month, Aaliyah described herself as street but sweet.
I wanted this role because I felt we were so
Aaliyah received critical acclaim for her role in last year's Kung Fu Fighting, Romeo Must Die, which led to her huge Grammy-nominated hit Try Again, featured on the movie's soundtrack.
It's sad. It's really sad.
Also killed in the crash, Aaliyah's bodyguard, Scott Gallant of Pompano Beach, a former NFL player and a father to a 14-year-old boy.
A good dad, really good dad. His son always did things with him. I believe his son spent like the school year here with him, and he always took him out. He always did really nice things with him.
He's just a family guy, and he's a bodyguard for stars. So I guess that's why he was on that plane.
In a statement released this afternoon, Aaliyah's family is devastated at the loss of their loving daughter and sister. Their hearts go out to those families who also lost their loved ones in this tragic accident, an accident that took the lives of 9 people.
Are the first photographs from the accident scene in the Bahamas. Last night at 6:50, the Cessna 402 crashed during takeoff from the Marsh Harbor Airport. 6 people died on impact.
I was aware she was on the plane the moment I arrived. I had seen them at one of their shoots earlier that day.
On the phone, Colin Albury, one of the first rescue crews called to the fiery crash. Initially, 3 badly burned survivors were found. All 3 also later died.
There was a little chaos. Naturally, everybody was upset with what we were viewing at that time, but as professionals, we just went right in and did the best we could.
The plane crashed only 200 feet from the end of the runway in Marsh Harbor, which is in the Abacos. Tonight, the small island community is trying to cope with this tragedy.
It's really taken the Abaconians, and I'm sure everyone around the world, you know, with grief, but here in Abaco, we had virtually the whole settlement just come out you know, and they were on the streets just showing support.
We're going to finish our last hour of our little small tribute to a big lady.
South Florida's airwaves, 99 jams accepting phone calls from fans, paying tribute to an R&B trailblazer.
People are very sad. It's difficult to even do this special. I mean, I've seen a couple of people in the building even tear up because she meant a lot to a lot of people.
Starring in the action film Romeo Must Die, Aaliyah turned heads in Hollywood, leading to more film offers, fulfilling her dreams as seen in a TV interview.
I'm a happy girl, you know, I'm doing what I love. There's no feeling like waking up every day doing what you love and what you've dreamed to do since you were a little girl.
The singer grew up in Detroit, achieving straight A's at Detroit's School of the Performing Arts.
She was real, she was silly, yes, had a personality out of this world.
An energetic presence with an element of sophistication that South Florida fans will deeply miss.
It's a sad event. I mean, yeah, it's very shocking. Very shocking. Unbelievable.
I really loved her. She was one of my favorite singers, so it's going to be really different.
Matt Lorch, Channel 10 Eyewitness News.
Put everything all together online on our website, clickondetroit.com, and you can check it out, extended interviews. And really, there were just so many interesting stories, Devin. So it's just wonderful to share what people knew that really we just didn't know about Aaliyah.
And they all talk about it like you can't imagine 20 years have passed, the way that it's all still so fresh in so many people's minds.
A Cessna twin-engine plane crashed in the Bahamas, killing Detroit-raised R&B star. The whole situation is Tonight, a look at her life and legacy as we share a local tribute by a group of Detroit singers.
You know, Aaliyah was a straight-A student, attended Detroit High School of Performing Arts. At age 22, became a musical force, making her mark really around the world.
So impressive, so talented. But 20 years ago, all of those dreams and aspirations came to a tragic end when Aaliyah headed to the Bahamas to film her latest music video.
The ocean breezes and the tropical island seem to be the perfect choice for Aaliyah and her dancers to record her next music video.
She went to the Bahamas to film Rock the Boat.
Aaliyah's boyfriend, Damon Dash, remembers how he didn't want his girlfriend to make that trip.
So the whole situation was terrible, could have been avoided.
I know you had mentioned before, if you were there, no one would have gotten on that plane.
Nah.
Talk to me about that.
I was trying to stop the whole video shoot. And I told her, I said, I bet you he's going to say another day and then have y'all go someplace, spend a bunch of money, and then have you in a messed up situation in a bad plane.
That's exactly what happened. Aaliyah had finished shooting earlier than expected, and on the evening of August 25th, 2001, she and 8 others boarded a twin-engine Cessna. Within moments of takeoff from Marsh Harbor, the plane crashed near the runway. According to this FAA report, the airplane was seen lifting off the runway and then nose down, impacting in a marsh. The report went on to state the total gross weight of the airplane was substantially exceeded.
And I do not understand why someone did not speak up and say, this isn't worth it. We have to either be on a commercial grade jet or we have to split this up over 3 Cessnas.
According to the FAA investigation, the pilot was not approved to act as pilot in command. All 9 people on board died.
And I sat there, I cried, and I was in disbelief.
I just remember going into my car and turning on the radio, and you can just hear the tributes.
The music world took a collective gasp.
I remember exactly where I was.
Marcus Devine was in his Detroit music studio when he got the news. The singer, songwriter, producer knew what he had to do to honor his friend.
I had 50 Detroit rappers at my studio the very next day.
They all joined together recording this song in Aaliyah's memory. From the recording studio to the streets of Detroit, Aaliyah fans showed their love and respect.
I loved her. I'm a big fan of her.
She was such an inspiration to young black African American, especially females.
Meantime, in New York, fans lined up to pay their respects to the hip-hop star.
But this was just something that was so tragic.
Aaliyah's funeral was closed to the public, but that didn't stop fans from lining the streets as the singer's casket was brought to the church. A last goodbye, 22 dubs released for the 22 years the singer lived.
Her mom has never gotten over it, ever. I mean, it took her years just to go to her apartment to clean it out.
Aaliyah's death left fans, family, and others in the music industry wondering what could have been.
Got him like, too good. To the yard, he ain't never leave us pretty, on God. Broke, too good. Real boss, nigga, got the woods, pretty face, but I'm known for hitting jug. Got him like, too good. To the yard, he ain't never leave us pretty, on God. Broke,